What is up, you guys, and welcome back to Cryptographics. Welcome again to my special host, my co-host here, Dreff Crypto Kindness. And I almost couldn't say your name there for some reason.
It happens. You were on vacation, so you're all relaxed and like zenned out. So
And now
I get it.
now I've combated it with too much coffee, so it's an interesting state to
Oh,
be. Yep.
you get to be the guy that's had too much coffee today. Nice. This will be
Oh
fun.
yeah.
So you get to do all the talking. What's up,
Perfect.
man? Hey, welcome back to the Crypto Kindness channel. I got to do my snaps because I know it drives so many people crazy that it's almost entertaining at this point.
Mhm.
So anything happened while you were gone? You were gone. I had to replace you with Jake and Joe Perry's last week.
I saw that. I was only partially offended. I was watching it from the airport with my tissues on my side.
What happened? Well, I mean, anything happened since we were gone?
Not exactly. We could probably do like a 10-minute stream here and get out of here. So that's probably
Yeah,
what
it
I'm thinking today.
seems reasonable.
Just kidding. We had
Yeah.
so much damn stuff happen here, guys. We've had UFOs done a 5x in the last month. PTGC won't stop going up. Bitcoin bounced off the 10K mark. The TitanX ecosystem has so many damn protocols at this point. Just the list goes on. We got Shogun coming out. We have X28 that just launched. I've got my thing coming out soon. So
Well,
let's start
your
at the top
thing.
here. Hey, whoa. Careful there. We're slow into that one.
Okay.
But BTC, let's go and let's look at the chart here because this is almost a historic day.
You know what we should do first?
Sure. Okay.
Neither one of us actually posted this on Twitter or made any noise about it. So let's ask the 4 people that are listening. Please go retweet it on Twitter and like, share, let everybody know we're talking. Graphics and I, a little bit slow start to the morning. So I don't think anybody knows we're here.
Well, hey, let's give ourselves a little more credit. There's about 54 watching right now. So all you 54
Okay. Yeah.
viewers out there, if you could go on Twitter and share this stream out or your favorite social, Twitter, go do that. That'd be awesome. Get some more people in here. Get everyone knowing about this. So anyways, let's go now and let's check out the BTC chart. And I've still forgotten how to do that. So I am now remembering. Here it is. All right. Well, we almost had a very historic day for BTC.
Yes.
But I don't know about you, but I think this was kind of predictable where, like, if we looked at all the major markers, right, 70K was something that didn't want to be broken for a little while, right? It broke through 70K, but it was just having a hard time fully going through that resistance level.
Right.
And then, boom, we cracked through it. Next resistance level is 100. And of course, it's going to be it's going to be the way it goes. But what are you seeing? What do you think about this whole BTC run? Is this what's happening here, man? What do you think?
I wasn't surprised in the least that we didn't crack 100K. It's such a psychological number that those that know what they're doing know that those that don't know what they're doing were like, oh, 100K is going to go to 200K immediately. So no surprise to me at all that the bigger players front ran 100K and they sold. And that's okay because a lot of people are in profit and that's what we're here for is profit. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, nothing surprised me about that. I was very, very close to hitting the sell button on my MicroStrategy myself. I didn't, and that's okay because I'm in it for the long run. But I wish I did. I can say that much. I knew it was coming, but I decided to just be patient. As far as retracement goes, man, there's a lot of options. I follow Credible. I think it's Credible on X, and he's been talking a lot about this. He kind of had a number at 94K. If it breaks through 94K, then 80K isn't out of the question. Maybe we even test the previous all-time high, 76-ish. I don't really know. To be honest, I just know that it's not going to hit 100K anytime soon. And by that, I mean like the next 3 or 4 hours. It could happen tomorrow. Who knows? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's at this point with everything going on globally right now, I wouldn't be surprised if things keep going the way they're going. Yeah, if we get a little bit of a tumble here, I have no targets in mind. I mean, yeah, obviously the top of the last peak would be like somewhere around the level I would expect. But if things are a little more extreme, maybe we see a dump back down to maybe as low as the low 60s, high 50s as well. I could even see that being potentially in play, but I'm not I'm the last person you should take financial advice from, as always.
As
And
always.
it's hard to say. Now, I have a question for you though about ETH. I'm going to share this because if we were to compare the ETH to the BTC chart, we have a very different picture going on right now. So in your opinion, what the heck is going on with ETH? Why is this so far behind? Is this typical? Is this abnormal? What's happening with ETH in your opinion?
I don't know enough about this to actually answer the question. I think we're waiting for rotation. I mean, the ETH BTC ratio, Bitcoin is, I haven't looked at it recently, but it was heavily dominant. So as that begins to lose dominance and money rolls into alts, yeah, see, just going down, down, down. So that's going to bottom out if it hasn't already. Is there any, like on the RSI, divergence of any sort?
Let's see here. What's going on here? I'm on the daily. Yep. Oh, yeah. We got a little bit of a divergence going on there. That's good.
Yeah. So we could be looking at people playing the cycle, rotating profits out of Bitcoin, moving them into ETH, and the altcoin season begins. We'll see. The one thing that's interesting that I'm curious to just observe, I'm not going to try to guess on or anything like that, is will we have that big of a rotation out of Bitcoin now that the bigger players, Wall Street, the BlackRocks and MicroStrategies hold most of it. They're not playing the rotation game into ETH. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. To be honest, I don't know.
That's actually an
But
interesting point.
But you asked the question, so it kind of alludes to me that maybe you have some thoughts on this.
It's funny. No, I actually was just genuinely curious. I don't have a whole lot of thoughts other than I agree with you. I think this is par for the course in terms of just the way the cycle goes. You know, you get BTC that kind of leads the charge, and I mean everything. It's kind of like a waterfall. You get the glass up top, which gets full, which is Bitcoin, and you've got the glasses below that are ETH, and the glasses outward of that, which are the altcoins and the meme coins and the poo coins, and you just on and on and on and on and on. But it is interesting to see because this will be my first start to finish bull run. You know, I only got in at the top of the last bull run, so that was exciting and hopeful for about a week until my soul got crushed over and over and over and over again. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch, and I think as we get into 2025, things are going to change pretty quickly. So I really don't have too many more thoughts other than this just seems typical so far, and a rotation will eventually come at the right time, and then we're going to see basically ETH start to take over in the spotlight, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
now looking at the comments, Wreck to Riches brings up a good point. Maybe we have a changing of the guard, and Solana is going to be where the profits are rotated to. Because we have seen, as he brings up, a lot more volume and a lot more trading happening on Solana, and it makes sense. It's faster and it's cheaper. So perhaps that's where if you're on TradingView, I don't know if there's a BTC Solana chart.
Oh, I can check it out. Yeah. BTC.
Yeah. It'd be really interesting to see. It's a great point.
It's gaining. It's gaining.
Yeah. So, that looks like an ascending wedge too.
Yeah. I'm a little bit less bullish on that, but
yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. My take on the whole thing is if you don't know exactly what you're doing, probably not a good idea to be trading right now. And that's kind of where I am. I've said 3 times, I don't know for sure. And so I'm not trading anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that 6 months from now, everything will be more expensive. So I'm not in a hurry.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement. I mean, this is the way I kind of approach things. Things either go up or they don't. And currently it's not. So I'm not confident that we'll see this go up anymore, but hey, that's just my opinion. And I mean, if we go look at crypto as a whole, let's go look at this chart. Look, it went up or it didn't. It went straight up or it didn't. It went straight up.
Yeah.
Or it didn't. Crypto's not one of those things where it kind of goes like, let me slowly work my way up here. It's either straight to the moon or straight to the dumps.
Kind of feels that way. And where we are in the cycle on the front end of the bull, essentially, this being the first real it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what you're doing, I mean, you could sell and say, oh, I'm going to sell here. And when it drops 20% or when it drops 40%, I'll buy back in and I'll have a bigger bag. Well, that can run away from you so fast. And then you're just chasing. Then you're using your quote unquote profits to buy back in higher and you get less. So there's a lot of people out there that know how to do the trading game. I'm not one of them. Some things can be very obvious in altcoins, especially like the TitanX ecosystem or the PTGC ecosystem, Pulse Chain. Sometimes trades become very obvious, but these bigger players where there's so much money out there, for me, it's not obvious. So I don't bother making the day trades. I'm happy to hold.
I think that sounds like the strategy I go with as well. I don't think I could do anything differently, nor do I want to, because I like my current emotional state and I don't want it to be as volatile as the crypto charts. So I'm good, thanks.
Yes.
What else do we got though? We only mentioned a few things at the beginning, but I guess we could go.
I would like to look at the UF Heyo chart, 5x in like 3 hours. I don't know. It's just what I feel like. That chart is insane. Just what was the date? What was the time in which that last run up started?
November 5th. Actually, if you want to go back to the bottom, it's about the 23rd. So we are officially like 33 or 4 days into this run, and it's done 5x.
5x. Well, I mean, since November 5th, it's done a 4x.
Really.
Yeah, man, incredible. Why is that? We've talked a lot about UFO and PTGC on this stream. We haven't talked as much about it as we have the TitanX ecosystem. And I feel like we maybe have done a little bit of a disservice to some of our followers that are not in PTGC and UFO because we don't give it the spotlight. But part of the reason why, at least I don't, is because for me, I've said this 100 times, it's the easy button of crypto. I understand how it works. We've explained how it works and it's working. So it's like one more, we could go on and on and on and on, but it's working. What more do you need to see? Look at the chart.
Yeah.
But now the question I have for you here is, are you like nothing goes up forever and there's going to be a pullback, inevitable that there is a pullback? What do you think is going to happen here with UFO? Do you think it stalls and just trades sideways? Do you think we get a 50% pullback? What is your thought process here?
Well, I mean, if you go by history on this token, on this chart, it's a pretty interesting chart. The only dip has been like 30%. So there's a part of me that's thinking, well, I mean, it didn't do the 15x run that it's done from the bottom, or 20x run, or whatever it is now, up to this point that it did, or up to this point, like it's done now. Realistically, anytime a token does a crazy run like this, there should be some kind of a sell-off to a degree, because you're going to have people that want to take profits that are just itching to do so. And eventually there's a cleansing. It's a constant need, at least in my opinion, for tokens to go through cleansing periods where someone or people take profit. Those tokens are gone back to or bought back by holders that are going to hold for longer, or are just newer holders that maybe haven't gotten in yet. And so if we're speaking in terms of what it should do, it should come back. And I mean, it could come all the way back to, let's say here, I mean, it could come all the way back down to this little level here, even though I wouldn't really call this much of a support because it barely was a resistance. But it should have a healthy pullback. Couldn't tell you what it's going to do. I mean, we could pull out the fib and really just kind of take a quick look. But the only other thing about this that kind of makes me laugh is, I mean, right here, I was thinking, okay, there should be a pullback. Right here, I was thinking, okay, anytime now. And right here, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just going to keep going. And of course, as soon as you say that, it gets a red candle. But then it's just, as soon as you think that it's going to come back down and you're actually going to get the correction here, well, you get another green candle to go on top of it. So I would expect a pullback. That's the reasonable expectation. That's the probable expectation. But UFO and PTGC clearly are using anti-gravity technology. So hard to say for sure. Hard to say for sure. What do you think, man?
Let me share my screen and I'll show what the anti-gravity technology looks like. So first of all, DQ Crypto Can you bring up his comment? Dang, missed the boat with UFO PTGC. Wait
Oh
till.
man.
I'm going to share something with you that suggests that maybe you didn't miss the boat.
Oh, we got a lot to say on that one. That's for sure.
Yeah. Is okay. Sorry, my thing is not. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, bring that up.
Boom.
So this is the token volume checker. This is for the pulse chain ecosystem, and basically you can put in the contract address of any token. It will show all of the liquidity pairs, and it will show the volume, total volume. Now, the magic that lies behind PTGC and UFO can basically be summed up in this chart, and that is very, very thick liquidity. Now, there's been a lot of discussion lately surrounding liquidity, and it's an important discussion. There has to be liquidity in a token in order for you to be able to exit, essentially. What PTGC and UFO do, especially UFO has the bigger liquidity pools, is they leverage through bonded liquidity all of the biggest players in the Richard Heart ecosystem. So when we look here on the liquidity over at the side, UFO has 2.6 million in liquidity with Pulse. It has almost $5 million in liquidity with PDI, which is the big narrative, which has pumped a lot lately, which I believe is what has dragged UFO up. We have 1.9 in liquidity with PulseX, and you go down this list, you got 2.3 with Hex, you've got 1.1 with Inc. A couple 200s in here. There's a 3 million with PTGC. So the liquidity for UFO is super, super thick. And that is what its strength is. So that's why we don't see these huge pullbacks with UFO and PTGC. You know, a lot of times something will go up 5, 6, 10x, and then you'll get an 80, 90% pullback. Well, with PTGC and UFO, the liquidity pairing is so thick that there's multiple different exits, and there's multiple different ways to absorb people that are selling, which is fantastic. And as Shaka Vibes points out here, you pretty much have to throw out TA with PTGC and UFO because they behave very differently. And the reason why they behave very differently is because of the sales tax, the 5% buy, 5% sell that goes with PTGC, the 6% buy, 6% sell tax that goes with UFO. Because there is this huge liquidity web, any of these tokens that go up and down in value, the arbitration bots, the automatic market makers that live on Pulse Chain. Thank you for laughing. I really screwed that one up.
I was trying to hide it, but arbitration bots.
Yeah. See, I haven't had enough caffeine today. The ARB bots, the automatic market maker bots, are just trading back and forth. So anytime they see an opportunity to arb between two different coins, they will. And that buying, selling, that's what drives the volume of trades. So $713,000 was the volume yesterday. Let's see, the day before it was almost $1 million. But you can almost see a direct correlation between where the volume was low down here and the price of UFO, PTGC were low. And then as soon as Pulse Chain had some life breathed into it, and we started seeing the trading, we saw Pulse go up, we saw PulseX go up, we saw the die runs, the teddy bear runs. You get this huge bump in volume. And right here, let's see, on 11/1, November 1st, the trading volume was $13,000. Interestingly enough, that was right about the time that we got that 5x run up. And look at that. Immediately after that, the volume started cranking up, and we saw a $400,000 day, $700,000 day, a $900,000 day. Today, we're sitting around $713,000. So the magic that lies in this ecosystem is based on volume. You don't need to worry about the chart. If you want to have any idea where the price is going to go, just come look at the volume chart. If you see this volume chart dropping, price is probably going to follow it. But again, not too far because of all of this liquidity. It's very thick. It's padded. The cells are padded. So what I would do right now, if I wanted to guess, because that's really all it is at this point with PTGC and UFO, is the price going to go down? Well, I would go look at Pulse. Is Pulse pulling back? Is DAI pulling back? Is PulseX pulling back? If all of those are pulling back and the volume is dropping, then yeah, maybe UFO and PTGC cool off for a little while. Do we get a 50% pullback? Depends on how far back all of these tokens pull. But basically, every single thing on this list, Bear, Atropa, DAI, all of these things would have to pull back 50% in order to get a 50% pullback in UFO. But the crazy thing about the pulse chain ecosystem is that something on this list is going to be pumping. And when it does, it helps drive trading volume. And it allows the AMM bots to do their thing. And when the AMM bots do their thing, those taxes are harvested. And those harvested taxes do the buy and burns. They do the distributions of coins. They do all of the things that makes the chart look ridiculous.
And real quick, I brought this up just for a moment before we go back to the volume to look at PTGC as well. But guys, gals, everybody watching this, do you see what I'm seeing here, Jeff?
I do. It
What does
looks
that look like to you?
suspiciously like a very large cup and handle is about to play out.
I mean, so let's back this up. You just said that, you know, the cells are padded. You know, a UFO typically, if it didn't have its liquidity web, it would kind of come down, you know, when it comes to this level, because we have all this liquidity, like $20 million nearly in liquidity, which is just absolutely mind-boggling.
18 million is incredible.
Yeah, it's just insane, right? Especially at this, guys, we're not even like, look at this chart. The whole premise of UFO and PTGC is leveraging this chart and the other charts that are mainly connected to it, which is the PLSX, HEX, Inc. Right? Those are it's basically, this hasn't even moved yet.
Hasn't even moved. It's not back to SAC price yet. It's not back to 0.1. PulseX is 3x away from sacrifice price. It hasn't even started. So the comment earlier, I missed Pulse Chain, or excuse me, I missed PTGC, I missed UFO. Man, no, you didn't. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, sure, you could have bought back in 5x ago, and that would have been nice, but you haven't missed anything. The show hasn't even begun yet. They're still setting up the stage, doing sound checks.
Seriously. Like,
yeah.
If this doesn't get you excited, you need to understand a little more deeply, because man, imagine you have like, because here's what's going to happen. All right. When Pulse pumps to wherever the hell it's going to go, right? You have the two hexes that are going to pump. You have PLSX, you have Inc, you have PDAI that's in there as well. You have tokens that are all going to increase in value. What happens, Jeff, to liquidity when something is paired with something that goes up and drags that asset up with it? What happens to the liquidity?
I feel like it's a trick question. I'm going to get it wrong.
So it's not, I swear it's easy.
The liquidity goes up.
Hey.
Hey-o.
So get this, right? If you as a Pulse Chain fan, if you as a believer in where the Pulse Chain ecosystem could go, if you think that Pulse can do a 10x, well, if we were to go and look at UFO, if UFO just holds, and now mind you, this is kind of a hilarious thing to bring up here, but I don't even think this is necessarily the most reasonable conversation, because this chart does not paint the picture of UFO staying stable with Pulse. But anyways, we'll stay there for now. If UFO even stays just like where it is right now during this period of where Pulse is doing a 10x, that means the liquidity for UFO and Pulse will 10x. And that means in one pool alone, it will have $26 million in liquidity. If you think Pulse can 100x and UFO just maintains this with it, just maintains, doesn't keep doing what it's doing, that means the liquidity for just this one pool will be $260 million. Now,
and listen to this one. There's a lot of people that believe in the PDAI narrative. I don't have an opinion on it, mostly because I don't hold any, but I don't need to, because I leverage it by owning PTGC and UFO. PDAI has $5 million, $4.96 million in liquidity right now with UFO. What happens if PDAI does go to $1, like so many people think? That's 100x. That would be $490 million of liquidity in the UFO pair with just PDAI. Now Now, wait, just wait, there's more. Can you imagine the amount of volume that would come over to Pulse Chain if PDI pegged to $1? Like that would be the meme coin of all meme coins, and people would come over here and chase it. We've already seen it. We saw it last 3 days as PDI is running up. The volume came in to chase it. So PDI goes to $1. What is that going to do to this volume? What if there's, what if we're not trading at $1 million a day, but we're trading at $5 million a day of volume, $10 million a day of volume? The volume is what drives the entire thing. Humans not needed. All we need is other people to trade these coins, and the PTGC design, the tax design, the AMM bot design will do all the work. And good God, that's just one narrative. That's just one narrative. What if Teddy Bear becomes the next, I don't know, Doge? What if this becomes $1 billion, $5 billion coin, meme coin on Pulse Chain? That's just one. Guess what's going to happen? $213,000 of liquidity. Well, that's going to be 10x, 2 million, 100x, 20 million. Like every single coin in here has a narrative. Hex.
Oh
my
man.
God. How many of these? And all we need to do is have one or two of them drive some volume, because volume is what matters. It's incredible. So are you too late for PTGC and UFO? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Would it have been nice to buy a month ago? Of course. But that goes for any crypto ever, period, right now. It would have been nice to buy a month ago. It would have been nice to buy 5 months ago. But to walk away from it because it's done a 5x, it's kind of silly, especially if you have faith or belief that any of these Pulse is going to do a 10x. Maybe like ask anybody in the Pulse Chain or Hex ecosystem if Pulse or does a 10x, is that a success? Everybody will say no. If you ask Richard Hart himself, he'd say no, it's probably a failure. I mean, I'm happy with a 10x, but whatever. What if PulseX does a 10x? Probably not that great. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's not even worth my time. What if PTGC does a 10x? What if Teddy? I mean, just like 10x is kind of small. Can compare like when we know what Richard Hart is capable of and what his vision for the ecosystem is. Oh man, so excited, which is why I didn't sell the top, and I'm not going to, because it's like, why would you sell today? And if the price goes down, guess what? There's volume happening. When the price goes down, people are selling. Volume, this is just volume. This isn't buys. This isn't sells. This is the combination of both. So if we had $1 million in volume going down, that still works out very well for holders, because the taxes are still collected on that $1 million of volume going down. Those rewards are used to thicken the liquidity pools and pay out reflections to the holders. So just be patient. And if if the chart does give us a 20% pullback, there's your opportunity. Don't say, well, maybe it'll go to 50, maybe it'll go to 75. Just be like, hey, thank you. I appreciate this. I'm going to take my chance, my opportunity now.
Well, and I want to echo one last thing here, just so you guys can finally have like one last thing before maybe we go to PTGC or I don't know, maybe there's always so much stuff to talk about with UFO. I mean, we could do moon math and all that stuff. We could do a whole hour stream on just UFO, seriously. But the one thing I want to echo that you were alluding to, or that you basically straight up said, is we've right now had one pool of the 6 or 7 main pools that have been pumping. One. And this is what it did. What happens when you add a second, a third,
or a third,
a fourth, or all of them? And what happens when the main one is pumping, which funnels economic energy into the next, which basically that means if Pulse does a 2x and that same economic energy flows into Hex, let's say, and it does a 2x, that means it does a 4x, which funnels that economic or that kind of price performance into UFO, right? And it's just like, so the rocket fuel, you can think about it like this. If UFO is an engine, okay, if it's like I was going to say it's a lawnmower, but just because it's choking, let's say it's an old 2-stroke dirt bike. The choke has not even been turned on yet. The fuel has not even been turned on yet. That's it. The rocket fuel hasn't even been engaged. This last little blip that we've seen here, and this is hilarious to call this 5X a blip, but this is the rocket fuel only being turned on a little bit. It's like just testing. Okay, is the line connected? Is the tank full? Is everything working properly? Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Now we can hold up for a sec here and let everything kind of consolidate. And then when Pulse and the rest of the ecosystem starts to fly, that's when the rocket fuel gets turned on, and that's when the anti-gravity technology really kicks in.
Yeah, it's crazy. How on earth have we been talking for 30 minutes? I don't even recognize that as a thing. That's crazy.
I don't know, but I think it's a good thing when time flies that quickly. I
Yeah, it's so exciting.
It really
I have
is.
one last thing I'd love to share, but I don't have the website. Do you have the Moon Math website, the one
what
that
is it?
Kong did?
I don't off the cuff, actually. Oh man,
Okay,
I don't.
that's
I
a
don't.
fail
I
on
don't.
our part.
I
I can
know.
find
Yep.
it. I know a
Okay.
guy.
Okay. I guess if you're gonna look that up, why don't I bring up PTGC real quick and
Yeah, actually, that's ideal because and bring it up on Deck Screener because I want to show the PTGC pulse ratio. That's the thing that's most important to me.
All right, well, let's take a look here. And lo and behold, it's still doing PTGC things. Insane. Wow, what a surprise. So, what do you make of this, Jeff? What are we like? Is this thing ever going to stop doing it? Like, it's just I keep saying, and the reason I keep saying anti-gravity technology is because it literally defies gravity. It just keeps going up. You know, you put weight on it to pull it down, and it just says, "No, I don't work with your physics. I go up."
No, thank you.
Yeah, no,
It looks a lot like the early days of Bitcoin's chart.
that's a statement. That's cool. That's very cool to think about. And I mean, it's kind of set up to propel itself to do stuff that, maybe only BTC or these crazy high performing tokens could do. It really is.
Yeah, it's wild. What do you see on the ratio? I'm hoping to find this website before.
So it just is hilarious to look at. So the volume obviously is increasing. We can see every time the volume ticks up, there's a price run. I could bring up the secret to bank for PTGC as well, but it's just crazy, even with PTGC. And here's something interesting. This isn't supposed to be just like UFO centric, but even the liquidity for PTGC and Rat Pulse is not as much as PTGC and Rat Pulse has less liquidity than PT or UFO and Rat Pulse, which is kind of crazy. And something that's interesting to think about is if PTGC has a little lower liquidity overall, and I would have to check to see if it has overall lower liquidity. But we could definitely do that. But liquidity and volatility are linked integrally. So, I mean, at some point here, there may be a little bit of a springboard action, especially as UFO rises up. It's going to pull up PTGC as well. And I mean, it's just crazy to watch this. I've literally never seen anything do anything like this ever. And even at this rounded area, like this area here, which if you asked me, I mean, that's like the classic rounded top. Like, I mean, Hex did it at its last top. I mean, TitanX was doing this. You could see this all the time of this like nice rounded shape that starts to happen. You can think, okay, yeah, time for a correction. Never mind. See ya.
See ya. What is the PTGC to pulse ratio right now?
It is 5 pulse per PTGC.
5 pulse per PTGC.
5.05.
Where did it start?
Oh, do we really want to go there? 303. No, sorry, 3040. Basically, yeah. 304. Call it.
Wow. So the reason why I asked that question is because now go to UFO, please, and thank you.
Wait, I have it in my. I always do this. Why do I do that? It's right here.
And what is the ratio to pulse?
Oh, I see where you're going with this. I see. You dog.
0.7?
0.72.
0.72.
And it started. If we want to do the first candle, which I wouldn't even say this is fair because this is all bots.
Yeah.
So let's even do day 2. 0.03.
0.03. So what is it up versus pulse? 0.03 to 0.7, 35x next to pulse, roughly. But here's what I want to do. Let me share my screen here with the Moon Math. I got the Moon Math calculator.
Nice.
least I think I did. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So right here, UFO PLS. So I'm going to click that button.
Mhm.
Now the X factor is how much more will the one coin outperform the other. So right now UFO is at a 0.72 to 1 pulse ratio. PTGC, however, is at a 5-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to say, let's just assume that UFO is going to do PTGC like things. I'm going to change that to 5. And then what do we think? Do we think that Pulse can do a 50x from SAC, which would be 2 zeros and a 5?
That was the number that literally came to my brain. So however you just pulled that one out of my noggin into yours, I am flabbergasted, but yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so it's moon math, but I see, based on the liquidity web and all the things we discussed earlier, that it's highly probable that UFO does a 5-to-1 ratio with Pulse at some point during this run.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that 50x is a semi-reasonable target for Pulse Chain from sacrifice price. So if I hit the calculate button, it tells us that we would have a penny, a penny, 1.8 pennies UFO. That's pretty impressive.
Goodness.
So the question is, are you too late? What if this only did a 10x? Like, so then we got 3 zeros, 2 zeros, 1. You have a third of a penny UFO. If you want to know where UFO is going, just look at the PTGC chart. That's all you need to know. And then you can take this calculator, which is really cool. We can share the link in the video description. For those of you that are in the TitanX ecosystem, this is the TitanXHub of the PTGC ecosystem. Kong has done a great thing. There is a premium available for even more data on this ecosystem. And once you dive into the data on the ecosystem, questions like, am I too late, go right out the window. Very well done here. We'll share this link. But you can play with your own targets. Maybe you think Pulse is going to do 100x. Well, that'd be fun. What if Pulse did 100x? My God, 72 cents UFO.
Wait, that's the price ratio.
Oh, no, final price. Sorry,
3.6 cents UFO. That's still shocking.
Yes. Well, 72 cents would be incredibly. I would buy Oprah at that point, but no, 3 cents is so. Just don't assume you're too late. Learn the ecosystem, learn how the liquidity webs work, learn how the AMM bots work. Listen to every Monday night, the founder, the PTGC founder, and a bunch of people do a Spaces call on X. It's absolutely amazing. I listened to it last night. I learned something new every single time. Mando, B Roots, Prairie Banana, Shaka Vibe, a bunch of people get in there and talk about it. And this is an amazing ecosystem. So 40 minutes later, our 5-minute conversation on UFO and PTGC is going to have to come to an end because we still got a lot of stuff to talk about with TitanX. Anything else you'd like to add to this? This calculator to me says it all, especially if you get the premium service here and dive into the data behind it. You'll understand the calculator a lot better. And then you'll understand why you're not even close to late on PTGC or UFO.
Yep. 100% agree with that. I think we've been using the narrative for a while. You don't have enough TitanX. I think we need to start coining the term, you don't have enough UFO.
Yeah, that is also true.
We need a hashtag for that.
You don't have enough of either.
You don't have enough PTGC and you don't have enough UFO. You don't have enough TitanX. There's a reason we talk about these tokens specifically, because we think they're going to be the highest performers coming to this bull run.
100%.
So,
and the question is often asked, well, which one do I buy right now? Neither one of us are financial advisors. Just do a little bit of calculations. Where does your dollar go farther? And right now, UFO price is lower and you can buy a bigger percentage of the supply for less money. So that would be a good place to look. Start doing some math around that area.
Yep. I agree. And I've got nothing really else to add on UFO other than everything we've already talked about, because I mean, everything that we've said about UFO also applies to PTGC, and not to just like skirt around talking about PTGC too much, but we've also talked about UFO for the last 40 minutes. And so we got to do our due diligence here and make sure we talk about TitanX before the stream is over. So with that though, I mean, the TitanX ecosystem is an interesting place right now. It's looking like it's had a healthy correction, and it's possibly showing signs of coming to a close as a bottom. We've got Shogun coming out. We've got X28 showing us what's possible with the burning. Viper's been out for a little while now. We've got a lot to talk about. So what have you been observing? What are you paying attention to most right now in the TitanX ecosystem?
The money flow, where's it going? People are selling, of course. There's a lot of profit was made. Where is it going? It's going back to Pulse Chain. So what does that mean? And why like most people say, well, that's a bad thing. Okay, well, is it? Because UFO just did a 5x. What if someone took profit out of UFO and brings it back to TitanX? The people that are really good at this game know how to go from ecosystem to ecosystem. They follow the money. They'll go somewhere ahead of time. They'll take the pump. They'll take the money out. They'll go to the next ecosystem. So I'm not saying that the money is going to flow back into the TitanX ecosystem from Pulse Chain, but I'm saying that's what I'm paying attention to. I'm also paying attention to which I even posted yesterday on X. I'm paying attention to the stakes that are ending, and a lot of liquid supply coming onto the market. I think today, when did I post that? I guess I posted it yesterday. So I think there's 3.5 trillion coming onto the market today, or 3 trillion or something like this. So lots of liquid is coming into the coming onto the market, I would say. So what does that mean? Well, nothing. It means that there's more liquid coming onto the market. We don't know what the holders are going to do with it. Pulse Chain just pumped. A lot of other stuff is pumping. So if they're smart traders, they're probably not going to be chasing something else right now, because smart traders like to get in front of the pumps. They don't like to chase the pump at the top. So maybe they keep it in the TitanX ecosystem. Maybe they use that liquid for Shogun. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they take advantage of people that will sell Dragon X to get into Shogun, and they just keep their liquid there until the Dragon X price bottoms. I mean, there's so many opportunities right now. If you pay attention to any of the Telegram groups or even X, a lot of people seem to be displeased with Viper. And so maybe there's a buying opportunity. When a lot of people are down on something, oftentimes that's a buying opportunity. So there's an abundance of opportunity in the TitanX ecosystem right now. I do believe, though, we still need to wait a couple days. I have an arbitrary date in my head of December 8th before I really get too excited about price action, because I knew once I started looking into the stakes that were ending, I knew there was going to be a lot of liquid coming onto the market. So that's got to get itself either out of the ecosystem or repositioned in the ecosystem. People were going to take profits. Basically every other crypto but TitanX was pumping. So people chase green candles. We know that. So I knew there was going to be this period of time where it was just like, okay, we're probably going to see some downward price action. We're probably going to see some whales leaving. We're probably going to see some complaining and whining on X and some angry people in Telegram charts. So that was a great time for me to go hunting, which is exactly what I did. And I'm not getting excited about anything until December 8th. I want to get this past us, let the ecosystem have a week or two to recover, see what type of action Shogun brings about, and I'm going to observe. That's what I'm doing. What about you?
Oh, man. Well, I think you hit so many interesting points that we could literally talk about. But like when it comes down to it, when you do a run, like for one, if we go back and we look at TitanX, there's profit that's still had right here. People are in profit in this area. So for people to already be in profit, and then we go up basically 10x, I mean, you need cleansings. It's 10x on top of whatever they're already up, right? And everyone was expecting day 280, which is right here, to go, and it went whee, which is the opposite of what we all expected, or for the most part, as a collective community, what a lot of people expected. And so when you go up, you've got to come down and do some cleansing. So like you were saying, this is a great opportunity for, actually, this is kind of like prime real estate for people to reconfigure their bags, to figure out, where do I want to be? This is a perfect time to set up, figure out where you want to allocate yourself, for the future runs. I mean, like Dragon X is down. It's almost back down to 10-1 in the TitanX to Dragon X ratio.
Yeah.
Right. So there are, while we could be looking at, like, you could be looking at Viper, and we could be looking at all these different tokens in the ecosystem, and a lot of them are down. We're like, oh no, oh God, what's happening? Are we so screwed? Well, whenever you typically hear that, I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a flat line. And I won't say anything more than that. But typically when when people start screaming, it's dead, it's over, it's time to go home, or I told you so, I mean, typically those are great times to buy. Not all the time, but typically they are. So, I mean, I think it's a really important time for everyone in this ecosystem to be getting ready. Because like you said, Shogun is coming. That has a lot of hype around it, at least from what I'm gathering. And Shogun is going to do things for the ecosystem that we haven't seen done yet because of X28. And so when you combine the potential participation, finally, as a lot of people are saying, Jake is releasing a hyper deflationary asset, and that hyper deflationary asset is going to be basically running through X28. That equals a lot of TitanX to be burnt, because every single time an X28 is created, 50% of that the TitanX that created that X28 is immediately burnt. So that's huge. Absolutely huge. And that doesn't even account for the extra liquid TitanX that's going to have to be used and paired with the stake TitanX 1-to-1 that needs to be basically used to participate in Shogun as well. I mean, this ecosystem after this cleanse is actually in a prime opportunity, in my opinion. And like, I do think that, December 8th, that does sound like a reasonable date to start going up, because typically, when there's a bottom, you kind of need to see a little bit of a relief pump, which we saw early on with, where is it here? Just to show you, we had that one major crash day where it went down, like basically to this, almost the first support and resistance level down here, right? And then we had the relief pump, and now we're back here. It wouldn't shock me if you're bang on and we kind of just trend sideways here, the volume lowered, and then we start to slowly get some momentum, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we get a nice little a run as we get into 2025, or even in the next week or so, as Shogun really starts to pop off. I think that could be huge too, depending on how the marketing goes. God, there's just so much to say. I mean, I agree with everything you said, and I'm very curious to see what Shogun's going to bring. So on that note, I would ask you, Shogun, what's your take? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to do for the ecosystem as a whole initially, and then let's say a month or two down the road? What are you foreseeing?
Well, it all depends on day one action. It really does. It's right now, I feel like the TitanX ecosystem is a little timid, because a lot of people expected it to just keep going up forever. Hyper deflationary. I think that term was probably abused a little too early.
Yeah.
Everything's hyper deflationary. Oh my gosh, this is where it goes to the moon. Nah, like hyperdeflation to me is January 1st, in that time frame. So I think people are reeling a little bit. And so what I would love to see is a large influx of TitanX going into Shogun early. That would be an indicator to me that people are like, okay, it is what it is. I get it now. I understand nothing goes up forever. Mm-hmm. All these things are tied together. So of course, when one falls, they all fall. That is the beauty and the beast of the TitanX ecosystem. But here's a great opportunity. And so Shogun, I really like a lot of things about it. There's a few things that I'm like, oh, maybe personally, I think the 8% tax is a little high. Mm. But at the same time, I mean, it's working well for UFO at 6% tax. So I like that there is harvesting of that tax to build the liquidity pool. I like that it's a cap supply coin. There's a lot of stuff I like about it. I like that it is built on X28, which means you have to essentially burn a bunch of your TitanX to get over there and participate. So I'm going to be looking at the volume, essentially. I'm going to be paying attention to how much TitanX is going into Shogun early on. And what lessons can we learn from Viper? I'll share this with the community. Everybody was so excited about Viper because of the success of Volt. So what happened on day one? Everybody aped Viper, and they went in and put, like, the day one auction was insane. Well, unfortunately, all of those people paid a premium for it because the competition was very high. It's an auction style. So at the end of the day, only so much is released and you're competing with everybody else that put in. So with Shogun, maybe it's not the best idea to ape day one, or maybe everybody got burned by aping day one and it is the best idea to ape day one. That's what's going to be really fun about that, is like, now there's going to be this whole kind of like psychological warfare of people like, oh man, I aped day one on Viper and I ended up getting a bad rate. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset about Vipers, not necessarily because of its performance, but because they allowed their emotions to get the better of them. They aped, they didn't get a great price on it. And essentially it's bled out since then. So there's a lot of people underwater. I also expect to see unfavorable truth for me is people selling other assets to get TitanX to go over to Shogun. Because, if you burned your TitanX for Morpheus, or you burned your TitanX for Dragon X, or you burned, on and on and on, Hydra, whatever, you might not have much TitanX left. So I would not be surprised to see some more downward sales pressure on some of the other assets like Dragon X, like Volt, God, there's so many of them now. I would especially expect to see NFTs. E280 NFTs getting burned, especially if the ratio is right about 1-to-1. So I think the answer is anything can happen. Some of the things that I expect to happen are price of other assets dropping as people go into TitanX to get into Shogun. I expect to see that maybe day one, day two, we don't see a bunch of aping because of lessons learned from other auction style launches. And yeah. I know that wasn't a great answer, like to the moon, woo! But
that's what I wanted for an answer. Yeah, thank you.
There we go.
That was what I wanted to hear. Perfect.
So, but I want to ask you, break down Shogun for us a little bit. You have a really good understanding and a great way of describing these things. I would love to hear your breakdown of Shogun, followed by with some of the things that you're going to be paying attention to, and maybe some expectations you have that might, like, hey, I expect this to happen, but of course, we don't know what's going to happen.
It's going to be interesting. The big thing that I'm curious to see is you always have a level of hype and user desire to participate with Jake's protocols, obviously so, versus anything else. And so you have more eyeballs, you have more potential adoption out of the gate, which user adoption just feeds into the mechanics of Shogun. So and I'm not going to get into, I could bring up the white paper and we could just go through it for like a minute, but effectively you have the majority of the tax, the 8%, right? 3% goes to the liquidity web technology that they're going to be building of the 8%. So 3% of the 8% that is the tax goes to creating the liquidity web with all the TitanX tokens. You have 47%, I believe, that is just burnt, and 50% goes to the war chest. Now that could be vice versa. I'd have to go double check on the site, but effectively you have basically half of the tax is being burnt in Shogun. The other half is going to fund the perpetual auctions. And so with that being said, the interesting thing that all these auction protocols kind of need in order to really have that war chest, in this case, literally what it's called, actually help the buy and burn, is for prices to stay high, right? And the other dynamic that's really interesting about Shogun is it's going to have 28 days of auction, which is abnormal for what people are used to. People are used to 8 days, 10 days, maybe 11 days, but 28 days creates an entirely different dynamic. So we could see a price chart that is very different than what we're used to seeing. Very different, just because of the natural dynamic, or this difference in dynamic out of the gates. Now, another thing that to really pay attention to is...
So can I ask about that? So
yeah.
I mean, we're going to end. So write down your thought. Another thing we're going to pay attention to. I want to make sure we don't miss that. But tell me more about what you think the price chart will do, because What I'm thinking is auction style. We've seen basically all of the auction coins, the price goes down because inflation comes on the market, people take profits, price goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that would be different?
Well, this is kind of what I was about to go to, which is perfect timing for the question is, we could see, because if we were to go and look at Volt and Viper comparatively, Volt's chart, and I'm going to bring it up here, I believe just after or just at the tail end of the auctions, and now so we had the 28th, basically right at the tail end of the auctions, we had the price pumping. Now, the only reasonable explanation I have at this point for this is we had the coin market cap listings. We had players that potentially, wanted to be benevolent to the ecosystem, which it did look like. And so this also really helped Volt with its buy and burn, because the main thing to understand with these auctions is price is critical to what happens and what the system gets that then can sustain itself over time, right? The higher the price for Volt in this case, and Viper and any of these auction protocols, the higher its perpetual auctions value is each day, which brings in more economic energy, right? The higher the prices in the beginning equals more buy and burn initially coming in. There's a lot to be said. And I mean, you've got wild cards. Like you had people speculate on, Genesis could step in and do something. And sure, it could. I don't really want to account for that because it is an absolute wild card. And it's kind of like thinking about the OA and Hex and Pulse Chain and all that, and what it could do. And, it's kind of one of those things you can't really account for. But I would suspect because it's such a long auction phase, there is a period of a similar chart I would expect. Now, I don't think it's going to be the same because you have the buy and sell tax, right? So you're having effectively 4% is being burnt of all the volume, right? You $1 million in volume, that's 40 grand essentially burnt per $1 million in volume. So that's not even to account for the buy and burn itself automatically buying up the token over this period, right? So to stop this completely run-on explanation, I think that we'll see something similar, but because of the user adoption, it's hard to say that this is going to be exactly like Volt, exactly like Viper. I do think it's going to behave on its own, and I think it's going to do good things. There's so many eyes on it. There's so many people that are wanting to participate. I mean, I'm getting emails. I'm getting people that are in TG. I mean, even some of the comments that are in chat right now, people are like saying it's to the moon. I got one from my man Shafak here, which is saying Shogun is the mark to the moon. I hope, but there's a lot of bullish sentiment around it, and bullish sentiment oftentimes tells a lot about the future. And I think in this case with Shogun, because it's something completely different, because it is the new main narrative. Like if we look at the narrative that led us in TitanX to the run-up that we've done, it was hyperdeflation. Now, what happens if you are to say, this one thing that I'm about to release is hyperdeflationary and is going to lead to hyperdeflation, and that's the new main narrative? I mean, that seems like a bullish scenario for me. That's my 10-minute monologue of what I think Shogun's going to do. I think it's going to do great for the ecosystem, and I think it's going to do well, but it's going to be unique.
Yeah. I don't disagree. It's so unique is a great word because it's very different. We've got, and there's staking too, right? I didn't even read the staking part because I don't typically participate in staking. Do you have the ability to summarize the staking aspect of Shogun?
It's basically a one-to-one play. So if you have TitanX staked, you need TitanX liquid in order to burn that stake. And you can't do that past the 28-day launch phase. So this puts people there, presses them up against the wall a little bit and say, hey, you got your stakes. This is your opportunity to get out, but you got to put up one-to-one TitanX that's liquid. And so let's say, for example, there's, a few trillion that are staked that people want to go ahead and burn. Well, guess what? That's $1 trillion of liquid that also needs to be burned. And that's actually incredibly interesting because now you're basically doubling down on the amount of TitanX that needs to be, or that's going to be burnt for stakers, right? That's a very unique premise in and of itself. And I mean, the downstream effects of that are actually rather interesting. You know, let's say, for example, you get a bunch of stakers that decide. Let's say, for example, you get 3 trillion TitanX stake that gets burnt. Well, you get 3 trillion also liquid, but the implications of that are any token or like DragonX has a larger share of the pool. So for the 888 day payout, let's say the mining comes back and the future ETH starts to grow again in the payout pools. That means that the payouts for DragonX are only increasing. That's bullish for the ecosystem. That's bullish for essentially the main and most important burning point of the entire ecosystem, which is straight out of the liquidity pool using ETH. That is the most important, in my opinion, place to be burning TitanX. And so this has a complete widespread wildfire type effect on TitanX, in my opinion. And I think it's a really smart play to add the liquid in there, so it's not a free lunch, so to speak. It's not obviously not a free lunch, but not feeling as though it's a free lunch, so you can basically just get out of jail free for stakers, which some may not like, but at the same time, in terms of the ecosystem, I think it's an important move.
Yeah, I like that play as well. I get the frustration for those that are staked that want to get out. Oh, you know, I already committed. I already supported the ecosystem. Yeah, 100%. So there's pros and cons to it, but personally, I like the play.
I do too.
What about X28? I asked Jake on stream last week if, why not launch Shogun or something else on a base chain where gas is a lot lower and it would encourage, hopefully, potentially, who knows, more participation, because gas fees are, they're calming down now because the market's calmed down a little bit, but boy, they got really expensive again there for about a week and a half. What are your thoughts on, it doesn't matter. I guess it's a dumb question. It doesn't matter your thoughts because it's launching on ETH, but future protocols, X28 being the Omni chain, which reminds me, you're launching a protocol, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I happen to be, and I'm excited to talk more about that in full in the coming weeks. But yes, and I want to come back to that in a moment. But in terms of the Omni chain side of things for TitanX, I mean, my personal opinion, and that's all this is worth. It's just a personal opinion here, but I think for now, establishing the core on Ethereum is incredibly important. Getting eyeballs and new adoption to the ecosystem where it's simple to understand is paramount. And having this optionality for Base, Arbitrum, Polygon, all these other blockchains or layer 2s, right? Possibly layer 1s, right? That, in my opinion, becomes more important the more the further into the bull run we are, and the more eyes we have, the more new eyes we're getting. Because if you have a community and then you just immediately try and go spread it out with the same people without new eyes, you're kind of diluting the community, or you have the potential to, I should say, dilute the community that's already there. But if you are expanding as you gain new people, you don't know what kind of economic energy they have, and you don't know what kind of who they're connected to. And it's, to me, that's more of a winning scenario than to just go omni-chain right away. But I think having the optionality is incredibly important right now for narrative, for future participants, and for readiness. Because then when the time comes that everything is lining up, TitanX has gone into hyper deflation. It's actually hyper deflationary, and the price is reflecting that. You're getting adoption. You're getting influencers talking about it. And then you can go omni-chaining. I think that's when you really get this accelerated snowball of adoption for the TitanX ecosystem, which is ultimately the goal.
It's a good answer. I like it. Keep everything focused and contained right now. Establish the core, and then once alt season happens, the final alt season, it can go anywhere. It doesn't matter at that point. I like this comment here by Gugad. Don't sleep on the fact that Shogun has an Atropa style liquidity web with the entire TitanX ecosystem. That is very true. And that's the one thing that makes the tax a beautiful thing. So if, I think Jake already said he's going to pair it with, I don't know how many, I don't remember the number, 10, 13 other protocols in the TitanX ecosystem. So having all of those liquidity pairs exist will give our bots, AMM bots, the ability to go back and forth trading, kind of like we just described with the PTGC ecosystem. And each one of those is going to be harvesting a little bit of tax. It'll be interesting to see. I said earlier that I don't love the 8% tax. It feels a little bit high. It will be interesting to see how much arb trading there is with Shogun, especially when gas fees get really high. Because gas fees basically rob from that ability to make the difference in arb trading. So we'll see. I agree with you, Goo God. It's awesome. We'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. And remember too that with the tax, 3% of 8% is what contributes to that liquidity web after the initial seeding essentially comes in from the distribution, right? Yeah. So whatever occurs out of the gate, it's gonna be a very slow build to get that web to really be thick, you know. And it's not to say that it won't have initial liquidity; it definitely will. But that building and that process of accumulating in all the pools is going to take some time, right? So it's just something to consider, that whatever comes out of the gate initially is not going to just continue to accelerate in its building. That's going to be a nice, long, slow, drawn out process that will be accelerated over time to the degree that, you know, volume increases, let's say. But yeah, just as a caveat there.
Yep, exactly. Shaka Vibes brings up, kind of highlights the point that I just mentioned. The problem with an 8% tax is it takes 16% arb plus gas for a bot to make a move. So there needs to be a 20-25% delta between two different projects in order for the arb bot to be able to make its move. And that's, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the concern I have too. We'll see. It doesn't, I mean, it can exist because we've seen great fluctuation with price amongst the TitanX ecosystem. So it can happen. There's no doubt about it. All I can say is we'll see. It's like a generic answer, but it's true. We will just see.
Exactly. This is the fun thing about crypto is a lot of times speculations we have about how something will work out are almost always wrong.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. And I would love to be wrong here.
And they're super surprising, which is the fun about this space, is you can theorize and theorize and theorize about how it's going to work, and something completely different that no one thought of occurs, right? Because there's always factors that are being applied to what's affecting the outcome that no one can account for, because we're in the freaking Wild West right now, and you can't account for random bullets that come from directions that you're not paying attention to, you know?
The law of unintended consequences.
Exactly.
I like what Ahmet says here. He says, how many people will have TitanX or X28 on day 28 of the Shogun auction? That's a great point, especially if we start seeing some really good Shogun price action.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. That is so true, because it'll take a lot of TitanX off the market, just because either you're burning stakes in liquid to get in, or you're burning TitanX to get into X28. I mean, this is a great point. This is a really great point. I did want to touch quickly because Callum brought up a question. Cryptographics, when can I interview about your future projects, sir? So in the coming weeks, I'm hoping around a week and a half to 2 weeks, I want to start talking about it. I want to unleash the name. I want to unleash a simplified version of the white paper. But man, I am so pumped. It's a really weird time for me, because I have put so much work into this thing, and all I can think about is talking about it, and I can't talk about it yet. And so it's really difficult to want to talk about anything else other than this, because I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. It's so simple, yet so powerful, and it's never been done before on many, many levels. And once you guys get a hold of it, I think you're going to have a whoa moment. I really do. I think this is going to be powerful for the ecosystem, and ultimately powerful for the users, which is the ultimate goal of a protocol, to be incredibly useful and incredibly powerful and incredibly rewarding, all while having sustainability.
Sustainability. I love it.
Yep. Yeah.
Sustainability. So that was it. You teased us at the beginning of the stream to tell us that you can't tell us anything about it. That was kind of mean.
It's an announcement of an announcement of an announcement.
That's
I would
fantastic.
love to tell you. Here's the thing. I would love to talk more about it. Trust me, it actually pains me to sit here and withhold this information from you and everyone else watching this right now. But when it drops, it's going to be and I want to make sure I don't want to drop it casually. I want people to be paying attention. I want enough eyeballs to be on it at the right time, so that way when it drops, people can have the whoa moment. And I want it to have its moment in the spotlight. I don't want it to be a side piece of the conversation. And like the design for the DAP is done. It looks incredible. The logo looks incredible. It's all right there. And it's waiting. And man, a week and a half, 2 weeks is when I'm hoping to be able to talk about it. But
Awesome.
So Callum, soon.
Quick
Very
question.
soon.
I'm going to ask a question.
Yep.
Is it going to be built on X28 or TitanX?
Oh, okay. You know what? I think I can say this because it doesn't have anything to do with the protocol other than that. And what I'll say is it is going to be utilizing X28. And the reason for that is because through X28, you can leverage that to put the most amount of economic energy that comes in possible back into the protocol without having to have a percentage allocated to burning TitanX, because it does it for you.
Oh, I see what you did there. I like that. Okay.
Oh yeah. So that's your little tease for the day, everyone. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I will drop that for you because I have thought of everything, and I want this to be a selfish protocol in the sense where it is maximizing every single dollar that comes in to make it as rewarding and sustainable as possible.
So you just said something that is a big aha moment for me. Everything built on X28 doesn't necessarily need a TitanX buy and burn because that already happens with converting to X28. Aha.
Yes.
I like it.
Oh yeah.
Well played. Well played. Okay, good teaser.
I am. Oh, it's so hard to stop talking. Okay, we got to change subjects before I say more than I intended to.
Okay. Well, we're running up on our hour mark by 11 minutes over. Man, it's so easy to get excited talking about Pulse or PTGC and UFO. Just 40 minutes gone like this, and then Shogun, another 30 minutes gone like this. A couple of questions in the chat that I want to scroll through and see if I can find. First question for you is, it also came from Calum, and he asked, what protocols are you buying or would you be looking at during this dip in the TitanX ecosystem?
Oh man. Well, I mean, that's a great question. Let's paint the landscape a little bit here real quickly. So the first thing you got to ask is what's coming, right? And that's a very, very important question to ask, because what's coming will also feed back to what it's building on top of, right? So the one ecosystem, and there was a comment earlier that I saw, and someone was asking about Hyper, and I think there's a great opportunity to say, look, nothing yet has been built on Hyper, but guess what? There are multiple things being built on Hyper as we speak that have not come out with their white papers yet. I mean, Warp is going to be effectively building on Hyper to a degree as well, but you're going to have a number of other protocols coming. I mean, Mike Dean is building a beast of a protocol.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Marco the Mexican and his gang are building something as well. If not, there's another one that's coming out. I mean, I would be looking at ecosystems that are about to flourish. Let's go and look at the Hyper chart right now, because this was something that was asked about, and I can't remember your name. You asked about it, and I'm going to bring it up real quick.
I was going to bring this one up, so thank you.
Perfect. Okay, and I want to know your opinion on this as well. But I mean, when I look at the Hyper TitanX ratio, I mean, I'm seeing here it's come back down to this level. And,
Yeah.
The divergence in the RSI hasn't really occurred yet, but this is a key area in my opinion. And with everything coming for the Hyper ecosystem, I'd be looking at Hyper right now. I'd be really thinking about, okay, how do I want to position myself? What do I think that this thing is going to do? And I mean, you might have to go back and read into comments made by, Marco the Mexican and Mike Dean, and really try and piece together what could come from these protocols. But I mean, like, this is a prime area in TitanX terms to potentially getting in to hyper based on the outlook you see for the hyper ecosystem that's about to birth. What do you think about hyper? I know you were saying you wanted to bring it up. So what are your thoughts? What are you looking at with hyper?
Well, the exact same. TitanX to hyper ratio is very low, close to as low as it's ever been. Obviously, we had some capitulation wicks there, so those don't really count. But this chart in relation to TitanX has basically bottomed out. I was looking at the price chart yesterday relative to ETH, and I was happy to see that the price chart pumped a bit, because honestly, I was I don't want to say very concerned, but when I went into the hyper to my hyper miners and saw that they were all negative, I thought, ooh, this isn't good for the ecosystem. Right now, hyper is the only onboard for ETH to the buy and burns. And so when I saw a negative ROI on miners, I thought, that's not good. This needs to be, this is kind of a need to be positive thing, because we want the hyper mining to always be positive so that there is incentive for people to use ETH to mine, because that fuels the buy and burns. Now, when things like X28 and Shogun and your project get built over on X28, we will be less dependent on those buy and burns, because by simply bridging, or not bridging, but converting TitanX into X28, you're burning 50% of the supply anyway. But for now, I don't love the price action of hyper. However, what do we know about trading against our emotions? Now would probably be a great time to get into hyper. Everybody's forgotten about it. It's kind of like, whatever, hyper, mining isn't that profitable. This isn't that profitable. There's a bunch of inflation coming out in the next couple of weeks, blah, blah, blah. This is probably dead. As soon as you hear people starting to think like this, it's time to buy. So right now, I mean, if hyper to TitanX ratio goes to just 1-to-1, that's incredible opportunity, because hyper burns faster than TitanX pre-Shogun, pre-X28. That's probably going to change. But I know that there's a couple really good protocols coming into hyper, and there just isn't nearly as much of it out there as there is TitanX and some of the other coins. So what do I look at? I look at opportunity. I see opportunity all over this chart right now. Because usually with something like this, if you have a run up, which we did, you can see the ratio high there was like 7-to-1, and it dips back. It's kind of like the chart telling you where it's going to go in the future. So for me, especially on the front end of a bull market, that's just an indicator of where things are going to go. So it's like, okay, to me, this looks like opportunity, especially when you consider there's less hyper than there is TitanX. Hyper is paired to TitanX. And if Shogun does its thing by drawing a lot of TitanX over to X28, which then burns 50% of it, if TitanX price runs, what's hyper going to do? So emotionally, this sucks. Rationally, freaking great opportunity.
Yep. It's funny how the split can happen like that, where you can be crying about buying.
Yeah, oh God. The number of times when I've been clicking the mint a new miner or buy button when I'm like, why? I'm just so stupid. Why do I do this to myself? And then a couple weeks later, I walk with my chest all high because I'm a genius.
Yep. 100%. That is, I would say, one of the biggest takeaways. If you haven't already, clued in or learned this yet, is that patience is king. And getting your emotions out of the way to allow patience to pay off is king. Absolutely, all the time. I mean, I think you nailed it. This is a perfect opportunity. And ecosystem wide, I mean, don't take this as financial advice. Please, dear God, do not take this as financial advice. But also take this framework, right? And you can apply this framework to everything else. What's being built on Steve's neck of the woods, Steve DeFi, right? What's being built on top of TitanX? What's being built on DragonX? Where are the prices right now? What's the ratios looking like? What's the potential look like? Is it a great opportunity? And I think if you're taking this framework, you're adapting it for yourself to figure out exactly what fits your thesis for investing in this space and, or gambling, however you want to look at it, apply this framework and you might find similar opportunities elsewhere. This might not be the only place to do so. There's plenty of opportunity, in my opinion, in this ecosystem. And I think this next month, 2 months, 3 months is an incredible, I would say even shorter, actually. This next two weeks, three weeks, a month is going to be a very critical time to make your moves before we see the landscape completely change again.
That's a good point, because the landscape is going to change. I think that Shogun will change everything, because I think it'll show people, just like you said, kind of my aha moment, that if you build on Shogun, you achieve what we all want to achieve, which is burning TitanX. That's great. So build on Shogun. And then you've got the liquidity web of projects being built on Shogun. And you know, we'll see if the whole tax token thing remains a thing. I'm curious to see how that plays out. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I'm just like, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes. So, but the landscape is going to change. There's no doubt about it. I think that I already know of a bunch of builders looking to build on X28. Yeah, it's amazing.
100%. There's times to plant seeds when the soil is ready for it. There's times to watch the tree grow, and there's times to harvest your fruit. And this is a time where you got to be planting the seeds.
Yep, 100%. Any other questions you want to address in here? I saw one pertaining to liquidity. Do we feel there's enough liquidity for both TitanX ecosystem and Pulse Chain ecosystem to succeed?
It's a great question. What do you think?
How do you define succeed?
Oh man, touche.
Yeah. if the question is to succeed, and succeed means every single person makes $1 million, then the answer is a hard no.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one.
It's a hard no. It's fractional reserve. Everything in crypto is fractional reserve, and we talked about this on stream a while ago. Sometimes there's really good liquidity ratios. We showed the UFO had 20 million in liquidity with a market cap of about 50-ish million. That's an amazing liquidity ratio. And then we see other projects that have 1% liquidity ratio. So unpopular truth, but in order for one person to make a lot of money in crypto, somebody else has to lose money. It's dollar in, dollar out for the most part. Yeah. So is there enough liquidity for it to be sustainable for a period of time during the bull market? Absolutely. But you know, it's crypto, man. It is what it is. Yep. There's the reason why Steve and I stuck it out through the bear market is because we bought the top and we held it all the way down. And so guess what? There's going to be a whole new wave of people that come in and do the same thing. So it's the harsh reality we live in. But guess what? It's not the same. Like people say, oh, well, that's why crypto is bad, or how are you going to get all your money out? Well, guess what? If we all ran to the bank today and asked for our money back, guess who doesn't have all of our money? The bank. It's the exact same thing, except for instead of a bank with a big tall building and a cool logo and a big advertising budget, we have pictures of dogs. That's the only difference.
Small difference. Small difference.
But succeed as in keep growing, keep bringing in adoption, keep the game going forward. Yes, there's plenty of liquidity for both. What do you think about that?
I mean, really, I agree. And the one thing to keep in mind here, without saying the exact same things that you've just said, is typically liquidity grows as the bull market goes on. Prices go up, attracts more people, there's more liquidity available. And so you can never look at a point in time here and say and apply what's going on here to the future perfectly and say like, oh, is this gonna give us trouble in the future? Because what's going on now will not be the foundation, the landscape of the future. You just can't do that. You can't apply logic now to logic later, or that logic now to what's going to happen in the future. The liquidity in this ecosystem for TitanX, for Pulse Chain, is all going to change drastically. And if we're expecting some level, not let's say success of individuals, but success of the ecosystems, then liquidity will grow. Liquidity will grow. And that alone changes everything, right? So do we feel there's enough liquidity for both TitanX ecosystem and Pulse Chain ecosystems to succeed is a question that applies what's happening now to the future. And I don't even think that's the right way of looking at it, which is actually the best case answer that I could give you, is that if this thing is even remotely successful, we're in a way better position then than we are now. and it's only going to get better.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And the people that make the most money get in early because that's the highest risk. And so because you're asking that question, you recognize that there's risk. The liquidity is always the risk. So if you don't want the risk, don't take it. But at the same time, go to the bank and put your money in there and get a 5% return. Why does that pay such a low return? Because it's very little risk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. The bank, the cash game with the bank right now is even worse than crypto because it's even more player versus player. Because if you go in and you take out $2,000, that's probably the limit for most banks, or $5,000 or whatever. Now the bank has like 10% of its holdings liquid gone, and so now only like 9 other people could come in and get $5,000 before they have a bank run, and they have to order more cash. So it's like crypto is actually more liquid than the bank right now, which is a really funny statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Dog coins are more liquid than the bank.
Dog coins are more liquid. Or what I think is hilarious, I was onboarding a new client the other day, and he's like, well, what should I get into? And I said, well, here's the challenge with that question. Because you're new to crypto, what's about to come out of my mouth, you're either going to laugh at or think this guy's an idiot, but you really should be buying some UFO.
Oh,
and I'm
awesome.
like, hold on. It gets better.
That's a great answer,
it's true. It is. It's just like, oh, what should I buy? You should buy this picture of a dog, or this snuggly little teddy bear, or a Titan warrior, or like, what? That's probably going to outperform the stock market. So just, what do you want?
Mm-hmm. That's honestly the best answer. Memes are what sell in this space. It's the only thing. Whether the meme is a narrative or an image, a meme is what sells. With that, though, sounds like we just our tank just went empty. We hit everything we needed to hit today. So, guys, I mean, unless you have anything else you want to touch on, Jeff, before we head out.
No, it is. It's past my time to get moving. So this has been perfect.
Sweet. Let's do it. Well, this has been another incredible stream. We got like 500 people that have been tuning in across all our platforms. So for all you that tuned in, thank you. Make sure you're going and sharing this stream if you enjoyed it. Make sure you clip it because people love clips on X as well. And make sure you're subscribed to Jeff and myself. And if you guys want to learn from either of us, we both do our one-on-one stuff. It's helped support us to make us keep doing and allow us to have time to be able to do this on a Tuesday morning. So please, if you want to learn more, go check out our links in the description on either channel. And other than that, guys, every Tuesday and possibly more, because I mean, 500 people accumulating on the stream. That's good news. If you want to see us do this more, drop a comment, hit us up on X and let us know that you want to see us do this more, because we're interested to know that. But other than that, man, 100%. I got nothing. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you for being here, Jeff.
Yeah, my pleasure. Glad to have you back. Glad you had a good vacation last week. And we will see everybody next Tuesday.
We will see you guys then. Have a wonderful week and a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Peace.